Hello, everybody, and we're live. How are you?
I'm
How's it
fine.
going? I'm
Good.
fine. You're like
I
trying
never
to
know
look
because
fine?
I never know because you could be asking the audience. It's like,
Oh,
hello,
true.
audience,
Right,
how are you? I'm like, I'm not sure. Is this a to me, how are you, or is this a hey guys, how are you? You know
right.
what I
It's
mean?
Hey Society.
Yeah, is this hey society? I'm fine personally. I've been spending the day, frankly, Katie, because my wife is so embarrassed because I've been appearing on your show with so many good guests and stuff that my room is so dirty. So we've been spending the day cleaning my room. You'll see a whole bunch of
Yeah.
stuff still laying there that we've been working on. There's no more ottoman in here anymore.
Oh, wow.
We're
Well, that
really changing things up.
I'm really excited because that's a great, like, if nothing else, you get what you get out of participating in the show. I mean, you get amazing guests that you get to speak
Hmm.
to, and
Yeah,
on top of that, you get
a little bit more personal sanity,
yeah,
really.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
What do they say? Cleanliness is next to godliness.
Yeah, I get that much closer to godliness, and I every time I clean my room. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm in the northeast, and I'm going to ask you about your situation in a second.
Yeah.
But I just want people to know you're in the right spot. You are going to be hearing from two amazing guests today. The extremely distinguished, and I didn't realize this until recently. Also a Nobel Peace Prize nominee.
Wow.
Author, scholar, activist, feminist, Combahee River Collective Statement signing, authoring, Barbara Smith. I'm very excited to have her on, and she's going to be talking about obviously politics, the world, her latest piece, which was at in The Nation, How to Dismantle White Supremacy. And also I'm going to be talking to her about identity politics and the kind of the birth of it as a concept and what's happened to it along the way. And then we're going to be talking to Kevin Gosztola, who's one of the handful of journalists who's covering, quote unquote, covering, has access to the Assange trial, right. By which I mean he actually has a link to the trial, which a lot of people don't have, which is insane.
Wow. But he's able to get onto the Google Hangouts, basically.
The
it's
Zoom.
So funny.
Yeah, there's like
it's so funny. You feel like this would make things like more transparent, but it's still like just as not transparent, but like weirder. It's like there's no reason. There's no reason why everyone can't see it, except just that like that's the way they're going to be about it.
Yeah, like the bandwidth or something.
It's not true.
Yeah,
it's
not true. It's not true. Anyway,
we are doing a stream. If you are able to stream right now to an infinite number of people, they could do it for the Assange trial if they wanted to.
I believe so, because that's almost as important as this show.
Yeah, nearly. So, close.
Close.
Not quite,
but close. I don't want to be too haughty about it. I want to give them, their due. Yeah. And how are you? Because also hit that like button, share, like,
time to hit the like button, people.
Like button, subscribe, all that. Yeah, tweet this out. And really excited to have a lot of people come over. People have been coming to the streams, really enjoying them. But Jack, you are in California. What is happening?
It is just, frankly, like it is just a full-on marine layer of smoke. It's actually been cooler the last couple of days, and I was like, oh, it's getting nicer out, and I found out that that's because we actually have a marine layer of like smoke. I just got this yesterday, a little air purifier thing, because my wife was nervous. I've been trying not to go outside because it like actually like you can smell, it smells like campfire everywhere. If you step outside, it smells like campfire, and like the sky is like, it ranges from everything having like an orange pallor to like just full on, it looks like we're in like fog or something like that, and you just know that it's all fire. I have a friend, Joe, who has family in Ohio, and he was like, I'm just gonna leave and go to Ohio, like rather than stay and breathe this for no reason. It really is. And I have no idea what they're going to do. You know what I mean? It's just these out of control wildfires, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of like plan for it or anything like that. I've been saying, I'm like, Kamala Harris is the the senator here. And I'm not even sure like from her public statements if she like is aware that this is happening here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's it's pretty scary.
It is pretty scary. I've been thinking, and I know we get to our guests very soon, but I'm like, these wildfires already do cut into like small communities and burn them to a crisp. I've seen it when I drive up the coast and stuff like that. But one of these is going to start cutting into like a major metropolitan city, and everybody I think in California just has in the back of their heads like, well, that can't happen because nothing, you know what I mean? Like it's gonna happen at some point, and I think that's gonna be a big moment for people of like, oh, I didn't realize like this, I might have to leave this state. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really scary.
Yeah.
And I just feel totally like it's a horror film and it's distance across the country, but that doesn't really matter. And I mean, I have lots of friends I know out there, and even if I didn't know people there, it's a scary thing. And it's
the whole side of this country. It's like it's like the whole West Coast is just like in a like hellfire. It's bizarre.
Yeah. Anyway, well, on that cheerful note, let's bring on our first guest. Really excited because this is a woman who really impressive biography, and also has some ideas and solutions, which is exciting.
Wow.
And not always the case for us on the left, but Barbara Smith is.
I like to complain all the time and have no ideas personally.
Right, that's my thing too. I consider my contribution mostly kvetching. I kvetch righteously.
Yeah, really.
Righteous kvetch indignation. Barbara Smith is an author, activist, and independent scholar who has played a groundbreaking role in opening up a national cultural and political dialogue about the intersections of race, class, sexuality, and gender. She was among the first to define an African-American women's literary tradition and to build Black women's studies and Black feminism in the United States. And she's been politically active in many movements for social justice. She's edited 3 major collections about Black women: Conditions, 5, The Black Women's Issue, All the Women Are White, All the Blacks Are Men, But Some of Us Are Brave, Black Women's Studies, and Homegirls, a Black feminist anthology. She's also the co-author with Ellie Bulkin and Minnie Bruce Pratt of Yours in Struggle, 3 Feminist Perspectives on Anti-Semitism and Racism, which I really want to read. Again, Nobel Peace Prize nominee, and the co-founder and publisher until 1995 of Kitchen Table, Women of Color Press. And she lives in Albany and served 2 terms as a member of the Albany Common Council. From 2014 to 2017, she served as a special community project coordinator for the city of Albany, helping to implement the equity agenda. And she endorsed and supported, you know who I'm going to say, guys?
Wow.
Amo Bernie. So welcome, Barbara Smith. Hi.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much for joining us.
Can I just say I'm ready to kvetch?
Yes, yeah. This is we will kvetch in solidarity. This will be we will.
It's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, it's so great. Yeah, you actually sound like you're from New York, but you're from Ohio, right?
I've lived on the East Coast ever since I went to college, which was back in the Pleistocene age. So
yeah,
I've been here for quite a while on the East Coast. I've lived in New York on several occasions too.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you again so much for joining. And you have a great article in The Nation that seems like it was kind of inspired by an op-ed that you wrote. Was it the Washington Post? Was where you wrote your initial op-ed?
Boston Globe. Boston Globe.
Right. And you have come up with something that you call the Hamer-Baker plan. Can you talk about that?
Yes.
Thank you. The Hamer-Baker.
Yes. In the op-ed that I wrote that was published in June, I wrote it because of the lynching of George Floyd. And I just felt like I don't know what to do with all this pain, all this anger and heartbreak. So I just started writing a few days after he was murdered. And in that article, my goal in that article was to explain that we have a system of white supremacy. It's not just racial, bad race relations or implicit bias, our microaggressions, that we actually have this big system overarching everything that gets the results that we have seen for more than 400 years. And in that op-ed, I said, what if we had a Marshall Plan or something on the scale of the space race to address white supremacy? And my great editor at the Nation, Christopher Shea, suggested, well, why don't you write about that? And so that's where the next article came from.
Awesome. I'm just going to show people the, so you get a nice visual of it. This is the original op-ed. And here we go. You see that? The problem is white supremacy. And then now we're going to turn to the Nation piece, which is here. And for people who don't know what the Marshall Plan is, can you just set that up a little bit?
Sure. After World War II, Europe was just decimated by all that had occurred there. Of course, millions and millions of people had died. Of course, the ones in the Holocaust, but millions of civilians had died in countries all over Europe. Their infrastructure was an absolute shambles because of the warfare, the bombing, the Blitz. Many people know about the Blitz in London, where people had to hide in the tube subway stations, and yet and still many people were killed. And of course, their economies were also absolutely in tatters. So there was a general who was a United States general, who, I don't know if he was asked to develop the Marshall Plan, if he was tapped for that, probably. And that was then a plan to help to restore everything that was in, as I said, shambles in Europe. And it was humongous. Billions with a B, billions of dollars were spent in the European nations that had been allies, that is on the side of the allies as opposed to the enemy, the Axis, right. Germany, Italy, etc., Japan. So in any event, when people talk about something that's huge and overarching and just, complex, they often say, well, we need a Marshall Plan for that. And that's what the Marshall Plan was, the original one.
Right. And so what would this Marshall Plan look like, this Marshall Plan that's taking on white supremacy?
Well, I renamed it the Hamer-Baker Plan after Fannie Lou Hamer and Ella Baker. And I don't know if those names ring bells with people who are with us right now, but they were two of the most incredible organizers in the civil rights movement. Actually, with Ella Baker's case, she started, I think, organizing in the 1930s. Yeah. And some people know about Fannie Lou Hamer because she, in 1964, she was with the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, where they had organized people in Mississippi to register to vote. Although Black people could not register to vote, they formed their own party, and they had this huge statewide effort to register people to show how many Black people would indeed want to vote if they were allowed to do so. They went to the 1964 Democratic Convention in Atlantic City, and Fannie Lou Hamer did get to testify. And there was a huge conflict. That was when LBJ was running for president. Right. And there was a huge conflict about what to do with this delegation, because the regular delegation, the official one, was, of course, completely white and segregated. So they gave them like little handouts, and she gave this incredible testimony. Google it, everybody. And the question that she asked during her testimony is a question that's still very relevant, which is this America? And she meant in a place that's called a democracy, where a huge segment of the population can't vote based upon race, is this America? So anyway, if my plan, which in some ways I said to friends, it's like a work of fiction. Right. My version of a work of fiction. Not that I don't want it to happen. I really want it to happen. But the thing is that I'm not in a position to make it happen. And I hope that some people take some notice. It would look at all of the manifestations of oppression, discrimination, and equality, of which we have so many. The most extreme are is terrorism, is racial domestic terrorism. It would look at every single thing, particularly the economic repercussions of racism, and it would start to fix them.
Maybe instead of a work of fiction, it can be like your manifesto, the Smithian manifesto, which is a call for action, right?
That's okay. It's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
It doesn't have to be. Why? Yeah, we don't have to. If it doesn't work, then you'll say it was fiction. But for now, it can be a call for action. Yeah.
Very
Right.
fine line between speculative
that's
fiction
interesting,
and
Katie,
manifestos.
because ever since it was in the Nation Online a few weeks ago, but the fact that it's the lead editorial in the magazine, in the Nation magazine, that was announced last Tuesday, and there's been a huge amount of response to it. And some of the most interesting responses are people who have ideas for implementation, like land use policy, like high school curricula. There's all kinds of things that people are already putting out there.
Oh, great. We should have him on. We could do a panel because you can have a lot of people on this show. So if you want to, we could do it. And I actually found the Fannie Lou Hamer, who, of course, one of her famous lines, right, is "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." I found some audio you can listen to if you guys want to hear it.
Oh, that'd be great.
Oh, good.
And then also, who does know about Ella Baker, by the way? Big fan of Ella Baker. Man named Joe Biden, apparently. He referred to it at the DNC,
okay,
right?
We'll talk about that on the other side.
Warning.
We'll talk about that on the other side.
Right, yeah. Sorry, I didn't do a trigger warning. I should have done that. Okay, let me share the screen.
Yeah. Okay,
let's see. Okay. Tell me if you can hear this.
And I live
to
the Credentials Committee. My name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 66 East Lafayette Street, Roosevelt, Mississippi. Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastman and Senator Stinnett. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. We was met in Indianola by policemen, highway patrolmen, and they only allowed 2 of us in to take the literacy test at the time. After we had taken this test and started back to Roosevelt, we was held up by the city police and the state highway patrolmen and carried back to Indianola, where the bus driver was charged that day with driving a bus the wrong color. After we paid the fine among us, we continued on to Roosevelt, and Reverend Jeff Sonny carried me 4 miles in the rural area where I had worked as a timekeeper and sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children that told me the plantation owner was angry because I had gone down, tried to register. After they told me, my husband came and said the plantation owner was raising Cain because I had tried to register. And before he quit talking, the plantation owner came and said, "Fannie Lou, do you know, did Pap tell you what I said?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, I mean that if you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave. Said then if you go down and withdraw, that you still might have to go because we're not ready for that in Mississippi." And I addressed him and told him that I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself. I had to leave that same night. On the 10th of September, 1962, 16 bullets were fired into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Tucker for me. That same night, 2 girls were shot in Roosevelt, Mississippi. Also, Mr. Joe McDonald's house was shot in. In June the 9th, 1963, I had attended a voter registration workshop, was returning back to Mississippi. 10 of us was traveling by the Continental Trailway bus. When we got to Winona, Mississippi, which is Montgomery County, 4 of the people got off to use the washroom, and 2 of the people to use the restaurant. 2 of the people wanted to use the washroom. The 4 people that had gone in to use the restaurant was ordered out. During this time, I was on the bus. But when I looked through the window and saw they had rushed out, I got off of the bus to see what had happened. And one of the ladies said it was a state highway patrolman and a chief of police ordered us out. I got back on the bus, and one of the persons who had used the washroom got back on the bus too. As soon as I was seated on the bus, I saw when they began to get the 5 people in a highway patrolman's car. I stepped off of the bus to see what was happening, and somebody screamed from the car that the 5 workers was in and said, "Get that one there." And when I went to get in the car, when the man told me I was under arrest, he kicked me. I was carried to the county jail and put in the booking room. They left some of the people in the booking room and began to place us in cells. I was placed in a cell with a young woman called Miss Vesta Simpson. After I was placed in the cell, I began to hear sounds of licks and screams. I could hear the sounds of licks and horrible screams. And I could hear somebody say, "Can you say yes, sir, nigga? Can you say yes, sir?" And they would say other horrible names. She would say, "Yes, I can say yes, sir." So I said, she said, "I don't know you well enough." They beat her, I don't know how long. And after a while, she began to pray and ask God to have mercy on those people. And it wasn't too long before 3 white men came to my cell. One of these men was a state highway patrolman. And he asked me where I was from. And I told him Roosevelt. He said, "We're going to check this." And they left my cell, and it wasn't too long before they came back. He said, "You were from Roosevelt, all right," and he used a curse word. And he said, "We're going to make you wish you was dead." I was carried out of that cell into another cell where they had 2 Negro prisoners. The state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro to take the blackjack. The first Negro prisoner ordered me, by orders from the state highway patrolman, for me to lay down on a bunk bed on my face. And I laid on my face. The first Negro began to beat. And I was beat by the first Negro until he was exhausted. I was holding my hands behind me at that time on the left side because I suffered from polio when I was 6 years old. After the first Negro had beat until he was exhausted, the state highway patrolman ordered the second Negro to take the blackjack. The second Negro began to beat, and I began to work my feet. And the state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro had beat to sit on my feet, to keep me from working my feet. I began to scream, and one white man got up and began to beat me in my head and tell me to hush. One white man, my dress had worked up high. He walked over and pulled my dress. I pulled my dress down, and he pulled my dress back up. I was in jail when Medgar Evers was murdered. All of this is on account of we want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off of the hook because our lives be threatened daily because we want to live as decent human beings in America. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll put a link to that. I remember hearing that for the first time on WBAI. They had a collection. Barbara, are you back? Okay, yeah, you are. Yeah. So yeah,
Yes.
that was harrowing.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So that
I have
that
quite
was
a few things I'd like to share about it.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Had you ever seen that before, Katie?
I had heard it, but I hadn't seen it with her, and obviously it's not video, but I had heard it and I'd read it, but seeing it with her images.
Yeah, I think
Right.
I had only read it, so actually hearing it in her voice actually is
Right.
so much. It's such a different experience.
Yeah.
So just so you know, in 1964, I was in the summer of '64. I was 17 years old. I watched her give that speech in real time, and I also, because I got involved in the civil rights movement around that time, I was still in high school. I got to meet her the next year in early '65, when I was by that time in early '65. I guess I was 18 at that point. And it was an unforgettable experience. I've written about it. One of the pictures that was in that clip was her. She was holding a microphone and there were several people around her. People in that picture. Ella Baker was in that picture.
Yeah.
Eleanor Holmes Norton, Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton, who is the Congress member from Washington, D.C.
Right.
in Washington, D.C. She was in that picture. And Kwame Ture, at that time, Stokely Carmichael, was in that picture. Now, that's the person, of course, who more people know about because of former President Clinton saw the need to badmouth him at John Lewis's funeral, which is just like, really? Are you kidding me? But the thing is that a lot of history. And as I said, Ella Baker was in that picture. The plan is named after Fannie Lou Hamer and Ella Baker. Ella Baker is best known. She worked for every major civil rights organization, all of them, NAACP, SCLC, and she also, though, was best known for having been the catalyst for starting SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. That's the organization that John Lewis was affiliated with, and that was my organization, although I was too young to be a part of it. And I was living and growing up in the North. But SNCC was all of that. SNCC was like the Black Lives Matter of that time, because it was militant, it was youth, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and it was dealing with some of the worst situations you possibly could, because they were trying to do something called register citizens to vote in what had been the Confederacy. So sorry to get into my Wayback Machine. I just wanted people to know what they just saw.
It's amazing. Yeah. And
what was incredible story? Yeah.
Tell us what it was like when and what was the context in which you met Fannie Lou Hamer, and what was it like?
I'm a twin. So my twin sister is named Beverly, and we did everything together. We were in all the same classes, and we were passionate. We became passionate, of course, about the civil rights movement. My family is from rural Georgia. And my sister and I were the first children in the family to be born in the North. So I always say I had an essentially Southern upbringing in a Northern setting. And they, of course, they were race women. That's a term. Race men, race women. They were race women. So they were really concerned about what was going on in their home, which was the South. And of course, we were interested in what they were interested in. And all the events that you see in documentary films, I experienced those in real time. Not because I was on the scene, but because when we came home from school, we would turn on TV and there was a Little Rock Nine. I remember when Emmett Till was lynched. I was in elementary school. I was only 8 years old. But around the dinner table and around the house, the people in my family were talking about this person named Emmett Till. And we knew something really bad had happened, really sad. Something really sad had happened, and that he was a kid like we were. He was only a few years older than we were. So that's the environment I was raised in. My sister and I got involved in the civil rights struggle in Cleveland, Ohio, because like many cities in the North, including New York City and also Boston, the civil rights movements in the North focused in the mid-'60s and in the '60s, focused a lot on school segregation. Am I still with you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just looking for something as you mentioned. Your twin. You're still with us. Yep.
Yeah, because my screen went blank, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah. You're here. You're here.
Okay, good. Just reassure me.
Yes, we're totally
Be
here.
that as it may,
You're seen.
we got involved in the civil rights movement because it focused on school desegregation, and the adults in the civil rights movement made a real effort to get kids involved. So that's how I met Fannie Lou Hamer, because she had come up to Cleveland to speak at a rally. We had a civil rights martyr. There was a white minister in Cleveland who died at a civil rights demonstration where they were building a school that would have been another segregated school in Cleveland. And he lay down behind a bulldozer, and the driver of that machine did not know that anyone was behind his, his machine. He knew there were demonstrators in front.
Oh, I think we might have lost her.
Let's see. Hold on. Oops. Let's see. Let me close.
Uh-oh. Oh, there we go.
Okay, there we go. Yay. Okay, you there?
Okay, we got you
I don't
back.
know what happened.
Yeah, just the connection, I think.
Yeah, and I have plenty of power. I'm not. Yeah, I have plenty of power, so I'm not sure what that is.
And it's a good Wi-Fi connection?
No, this is a mobile tablet, so probably not very strong.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah,
Okay.
right. By the way, here you are, right? And your sister. Can you see that?
No, that's Audre Lorde.
Oh, I thought that's not you. There's 4 women though.
Yeah, it's Audre Lorde. Like going from, as I'm looking at the picture from left to right, it's me, Audre Lorde, Cherie Moraga, and Hattie Gossett.
Oh, it's you. Okay, it's Miss. Okay, got it. I thought that. So it's just you. Sorry,
my sister
I had a
looked.
photo.
We were never told we were identical, but we looked a huge amount alike.
Right. Okay. Oh yeah, there are only 4 of you there, but it says there are 5. Right. Okay. So one of you's missing. Anyway. Okay. Anyway, just for the visual, but I'll find an actual picture of you and your sister. So that's you, but not your sister. Is that right? Okay.
No, my sister's not in that picture.
Got it. Okay. I'll try to find another one. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. So you met. You guys did everything together. You were saying. And you're not identical, but you look a lot alike.
Yeah, and so we were involved in the civil rights movement.
Right.
Yes. And so we were in the civil rights movement. We're at a civil rights meeting, rally, huge one, where Fannie Lou Hamer was speaking. It had to be a big one. And then we got invited to go to the after party with the grown-ups. And Fannie Lou Hamer was, of course, there. So.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. And then going back to your piece of the nation, and where you kind of lay out this the plan that you have, I just wanted to quote part of it because you have some bullet points. You say that, of course, you can read it because it's your voice. Let me just share the screen in case you want to. Okay, so you have some. You say our job is to do everything possible to make that day come sooner. A few suggestions of how to get us to a time when a Hamer-Baker plan could become a reality. Can you see this? I can read it. It's probably easier for me, even though you're the author. It's up to you.
I could almost read it.
Okay, I can make it bigger too.
You want me to try?
Yes, please. Let me just.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You're scrolling. Yeah. Name the problem. Begin using the term systemic white supremacy to describe America's racial morass instead of less inclusive or less incisive terms that may feel more comfortable. The second one is understand the scope of the problem. And that one, I suggest that people read things, Black literature, Black history, read about what's going on internationally, because we export white supremacy through militarism and imperialism, and also read social science. Basically, I'm telling people, like, get into Black studies, find out something that you don't know, because Black studies is generally not taught. It's certainly not in our pre-K through 12 grades. If you get it in college because it's an elective. The next one that I see is, do not accept it when the power structure, this is one of my favorite ones, do not accept it when the power structure's response to this period of racial reckoning is platitudes and partial solutions. In 1968, the Kerner Commission report on civil disorders concluded that the primary cause of urban rebellions was white racism. That would have been a great time to launch a Marshall Plan to dismantle white supremacy, especially since the report provided extensive recommendations. But of course, this did not occur. Now remember, this is 68. There were hundreds and hundreds of urban insurrections, rebellions in 67 and 68. And the Kerner Commission was supposed to figure out, why did this happen? 2 words, white supremacy. And then the last one is also a favorite, using Hamer-Baker as a template. Envision what a comprehensive, explicitly anti-racist plan to eradicate systemic racial oppression in your workplace or community would look like, and then work with others to make it happen. We can start, I was talking to an editor, columnist, the wonderful Renee Graham at the Boston Globe when I wrote my first article. We did a talk, an op talk as they call them. And I was saying, well, if we can't implement it in the country, why not implement it in a city or a state?
Right.
And I suggested that Massachusetts would be perfect because it's relatively small. It's the bluest state, as far as I know. And it's manageable. You can get from one side to the other within 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it's not like, Texas or New York State or California. So, if we can't start it on the federal level, I'm not sure that it should be even implemented by the government, at least no government that I've seen.
But it could be like on a grassroots level.
Well, that's, it's complicated because it's, needs to be, massive, and usually massive initiatives come from the federal level.
Right.
But I just don't know. I mean, if Bernie had won, can we talk about Bernie? If Bernie had won the nomination and then he won the presidency, I had fantasies about talking to Bernie about something much like the Hamer-Baker plan.
Yeah. And
I was a national surrogate for Bernie, so that would not have been impossible.
To Joe Biden, that would be good too, huh?
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I'm sure Biden you have an open line.
Yeah, I bet.
He likes Ella Baker.
Yeah,
just so you know.
Yeah, he quoted. Yeah, he quoted Ella Baker. Yeah.
I wonder.
But Barbara Ransby, who wrote the book on her, literally.
Yeah.
The definitive biography. Do you know Barbara?
Yeah, she was also a Bernie.
So Barbara. Yes. So she wrote the definitive biography. Yeah, she sent out this tweet that was like, here's what else you need to know about Ella Baker.
Yeah. A primer.
Because she was a radical.
Yeah, right. Yeah. She's like what Trump is pretending Biden and Harris are. But they sadly aren't.
Yeah.
Just radical. Yeah. Yeah, if only. Yeah. And then so how does this intersect with identity politics? Like how do identity politics inform the way that you see the way to combat white supremacy? How is that informed by identity politics?
Well, just to start, if we're going to start that conversation, I just want to let people know, well, a couple of things. One is that you mentioned the Combahee River Collective, which was a Black feminist organization that I was a co-founder of in the mid-1970s in Boston. We wrote the Combahee River Collective Statement. 3 of us co-wrote that statement. There were more members, of course, but it was 3 of us, including my sister Beverly. And our wonderful comrade and friend, Demeter Frazier. In that statement, we use the term identity politics to explain why it's legitimate for Black women to create our own political agendas. And to my knowledge, it had never been used elsewhere, the term identity politics. People have taken it and run with it and distorted it and used it to beat people up with, and both the right and the left. Everybody hates identity politics. Right. And the reason they can't stand it is because they don't know what it is. Right. They have no idea. So,
or they either don't know what it is, or they cynically misrepresent it. One of the two.
Right. Indeed. Indeed. And I talk in the article about how it needs to be intersectional, and that we would be looking at issues of gender and sexuality in the context of ending white supremacy. That's really out of a Black feminist and perhaps an identity politics playbook, because we are inclusive. We understand you can't abolish or get rid of white supremacy and leave violence against women and transphobia and homophobia intact. What do you have then? You can't get rid of white supremacy and leave capitalism and economic degradation and exploitation intact. What would you have then? So you have to really look at all of them. And that's, as I said, right out of our Black feminist playbook.
Yeah. I like that. That sounds like some right-wing term.
Right.
That they would use to describe, again,
that's right out of your Black feminist playbook, Kamala Harris.
Yeah, exactly.
And while we're at it, I am a Black identity terrorist, whatever they call it.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Extremists, whatever that is. Yeah. I'm one of them. I've been one of them since the 60s. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Let's wait to make sure there's no knock on the door.
An extremist. That's what I am. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've been radicalized, so that's fun.
Yeah. Just over the last few minutes.
Yeah, just the last few minutes only.
Yeah. How do we reach people who are not, because identity politics, a lot of identity politics, right, I believe is taking into account different people's experiences. And there seems like there's this a balance between the universal and the particular. So how do we reach people who aren't already with us? And I'm sure that it's like a complicated question, because there's like people who are not with us but could be with us. Then there are people who probably are kind of lost causes. Although I probably don't agree with the when Hillary Clinton talks about the basket of deplorables or whatever, how do you deal with those questions?
Well, in some ways I've been dealing with those kinds of questions and issues for my adult life, because I'm so committed to struggling for justice on every front that I can possibly give my commitment to and my time to. I'm by no means a gadfly or a dilettante. What I'm talking about is being aware and concerned about systems of oppression as they affect both the human family and other living beings and the globe. And so how do we get people then to be open to information and to experiences that they themselves have not had? My most, I think, go-to strategy for that is to try to inform, to share information, and to do it in such a positive way that people think, oh, I didn't know that Black people were, because most people don't know a damn thing about Black people. They think they do, because we basically have run popular culture in the United States since we got here. So they think they know because, they can quote every hip hop song, that was ever written. That's not knowing about Black people. That's knowing about hip hop songs,
right?
And hip hop music. So as I said, to bring information to people that is engaging, I chose to do it through teaching African-American literature. That worked. It was very effective. And because I just feel like I'm probably just a teacher to my bones, that I just continue to try to do that. Another thing that's so important is to not make people feel bad about what they don't know, or even about what they think. you can't get anywhere. You know, we shut down. If people attack us and make us feel like we're nothing and that we're not worthwhile or worthy, then we shut down. We don't want to hear what that person, that bully, we don't want to hear what that bully is saying to us. Absolutely not. We don't want to. We close down. So the way that we kind of, you know, fulfill and maximize our human capacity is that we do it another way. You know, we treat people the way we would like to be treated. We take questions and what people don't know as an opportunity to communicate, as opposed to, you never heard of that? I'm going to beat you over the head.
Right.
I hate you.
Yeah.
You don't know who Ann Petrie is? I hate you.
Right. Or if you don't know
never
that,
read
then I'm not
Richard
even going
Wright?
to tell you. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I hate you.
Yeah. So much of it becomes like whether or not people are aware of it. And sometimes I think maybe this is part of the grand scheme, but like so much of it becomes a very classist exercise also, right? When people, you know, don't know certain things because, you know, someone who hasn't gone to college may not know this writer.
Right.
And that's a really, I mean, I guess the older I get, the more aware I am of how like, I feel like I used to see kind of self-righteous, condescending chastising as productive, which it's so the opposite of productive. It can be like cathartic and satisfying, but
it's fun. It's fun to be mean.
Yeah.
It's fun to be mean, but it's not helpful. You really do have to let people like have the opportunity to grow left. You know what I mean? And so often this kind of attitude, like it's what stops people from growing to where you want them to be, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. Nina Turner, I remember once was like, you can't say at the same time. And she's like, look, I'm not asking anyone. This was on my show a couple years ago. She's like, I'm not saying people should put themselves at risk. I mean, different people have different roles. Some people do civil disobedience that risk their lives. Other people don't. But like, what we can't do is you can't acknowledge how pervasive and endemic racism is, and then also expect people not to have that. Which is, you know, that doesn't mean you like give it a thumbs up, but you have to kind of look at where things come from, and you have to, I don't know. It's a overwhelming thing, but I do
takes
think
a lot of patience.
Patience, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it takes a lot of patience. Not everybody has that level of patience.
Right.
People who know me and see the kind of work I do, they often compliment me on the level of patience I have for suffering fools.
Right.
Gladly.
Yeah.
Because I have a plan. I have not the Hamer Baker plan.
Right.
I have something that I want to see accomplished, which is more people getting toward more truth and more compassion and respect, and then maybe getting ready to move on that in a political way. So it's not just because I love to hear people say stupid things.
Right, yeah.
About race in particular, or about gender, whatever.
Right.
It's because I want people to get open enough so that they can take in some new stuff and perhaps change.
Yeah. And anything else that you want to make sure people know about your work? I'd love to have you on again. Time really flies when you're talking to someone interesting.
Oh, wow.
Right.
I know. I'm looking. I know. We had agreed upon a certain amount of time, and I said, "Wow, we really blew past that."
Yeah.
And it wasn't just because of the wonderful film that you showed.
Yeah, no, we did. That was 8 minutes, but we blew it out of the water, so to speak. Anything you want to make sure people know about what you're up to? Why you supported Bernie? What's happening? What your thoughts on 2020 are?
That's a tough one.
So depressing.
So don't like fascism. Never have. Never will.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd be living. I never thought I'd be living in a place called the United States, where we basically have that now.
Yeah.
If he's not a fascist, he's a wannabe.
Yeah.
And the people around him definitely, who are a lot smarter than he is, and that doesn't take much.
Right.
Stephen Miller. I'm thinking about Stephen Miller in particular. but there are
Mhm.
others. They're definitely on that fascist tip, and I think that it's important to stop that, and we have a way to stop that. I'm not making recommendations.
Right.
I'm not a party faithful. I mean, I ran as a Democrat for city council in Albany. I've been a registered Democrat my entire voting life because you get to vote in primaries,
Right.
and that can be important. And I also always vote because of what you've heard Fannie Lou Hamer say about what happened to her and others when they tried to vote. So I don't play with voting. I don't see it as something that is optional for me.
Mhm.
I feel like it's something I have to do, that I am supposed to do, because my people bled and died for that right. Now, voting is by no means a strategy for getting to the kind of world that we wish to get to. You have to use a vote strategically. And Angela Davis and others, who I admire and look up to, they've broken it down about what we do as principled members of the left in a situation like this. And people will make different decisions.
Yeah.
All I can do, and I always say this again when I'm talking to friends, those I know and love, I say, I just can't get past the babies in the cages at the border.
Yeah.
That's what I can't get past. So and then when you think about a pandemic that's untreated, unaddressed, imagine 4 more years of an unaddressed pandemic.
Yeah.
What would be left?
And downplayed. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I just wished, you see, you were with Amo Bernie, and now you're making this point. I mean, it is so far from me. I'm not judging Angela Davis at all. I just would have loved to have seen her in the primary, coming out in the primary. But,
say that again.
Oh, I would have loved. I wish, because Angela Davis made this great point about how, she's not endorsing Biden because he's the solution. There will be more space for what as she put it, like there will be more space for anti-racist organizing with Biden. But I wish she had come out for Bernie during the primary. That's not
that's everybody makes their own decisions.
I know, yeah.
Everybody makes their own decisions, and I was for Bernie in 2016.
Yeah,
I worked on the campaign nationally in 2016. So, I'm kind of ride or die with Bernie.
Me too. That's how I identify also. Although I'm not not that I'm as important as you, but that's my orientation. Ride or die Bernie. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm also critical. Because there's a group, more than a group, but there's some of us who talked with him and talked with the campaign about issues of race and how they were being presented and deployed. Barbara Ransby has a great article about that in The Nation a few weeks ago. So it's not, like when we have the kind of politics that we have, we're always trying to be the most principled and the most thoughtful about what we do. And we don't say things just to get, likes or tweets or whatever.
Sure.
I mean, we think about our decisions. And as I said, I'm really, I was totally supportive of Bernie both in 2016 and in 2020. But I also have my eyes open and know that we can always do better.
Yeah.
I can do better too.
Yeah. Wow, that's a great thing to end on. And also, Karen Nairi says, "What an honor to listen to Ms. Smith's wisdom today." It's true, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, thank you. We would love to have you on again.
I would love to do that, and thank you so much, Katie. It's been a pleasure.
You. Great, thank you so much. Have a great night, and I'll link to all of your
work. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, nice to meet you. See you later.
Bye. Thank you.
So long.
Great. So long. That was so cool.
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah. She's awesome.
Great stories.
She's legend. Yeah. She's
Seriously.
legend. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like that's been around for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Crazy things. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanna do I really want to interview people more about just how they, the personal is so interesting. I love people's personal stories. I want to hear more about her and her sister meeting, Fannie Lou Hamer and growing up.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that was
win.
great.
Yeah,
That
it
was
really
great.
What else is going on with you, Jack?
Jeez, you know, it's I'm taking the break off.
struggle session show.
That show was so great. That really was.
Yeah.
That was really a lot of fun. Man, I want to do more like that. But yeah, I'm excited for Bree's new show. It was great. I mean, Michelle Forbes
was on Brianna Joy Gray's show. She was on
great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
Michelle Forbes.
God, but the Michelle Forbes thing, it's like she's like for real. It's like, you know, sometimes it's celebrities, even if they're like lefties, like you're like, oh, they maybe don't really know that much or whatever, but like she's like the real deal.
Yeah.
Oh, are you kidding me? That was like awesome. That really, like, saying that Bejor is Palestine, like right out of the gate is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, she's awesome, Barbara Smith. Yeah,
Barbara's great. That was great. You know, what about you? What's going on over there?
Not much. Fall is upon us. Fall's here. Bodhi was vomiting a little bit, but she's okay. I think she ate some wrappers. I don't know if she got them into her mouth.
Okay. So she ate some plastic or something like that?
Yeah, she's okay. She's so
That's
cute.
too bad.
We should talk about, we have our next guest on, but we should talk about, let's tweet this out. Let's tell people what they need to be here. Did we talk on our last show about Woodward? Did we play that audio or talk about it?
No, remember we were gonna do it during the but then we ran out of time. Yeah.
Let me just open that up. But so we have our next guest on because time flies when you're having fun with a Combahee River Collective Statement author.
I think we should just get straight into it. You know,
get straight into it.
I'm gonna grab a water really quick, but you can bring it. I'm so parched.
No, get some water. I'm parched too, and I have a spin. Guys, I'm always open to sponsorship.
Spindrift is great. You know,
great, so expensive but so good.
The folks at Spindrift, we're big fans, and we'd be happy to read some ad copy.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to grab a water and I'll be all right.
Great. Yeah, you go grab water. I'm going to actually, let's see. I'm going to I have to also, let's see. Hold on. Let me just see something if I can play something while I use the facilities. All right. Let's see. Kevin actually gave me a link to something that we can watch. I'm just loading it. Oh, cool. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to take a quick break, but I'm going to show a part of WikiLeaks USA against Julian Assange, which is something that Kevin recommended. So, all right. So I'm gonna get some water. And fans of the show heard I talked to Max Blumenthal about this. So I will be right back.
All right.
I'm just going to run to the facilities myself. And here is, you know what I'm going to do?
What's that?
I'm going to let Kevin in.
Okay.
And then just because hold on. I'm going to let Kevin in. Then I'm going to run to the facilities. Let's see. Okay. Does that sound good with everyone?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Kevin, welcome.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Kevin? How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Jack? Katie?
Good.
I'll give you your proper intro once I get back, but I want to share this. Where is it? You sent me a cool, scary thing. All right, let me just do this. I've never once been able to open up a window that I'm about to play without saying, okay, let me see. Let me just open this up. Here I go. So I'm going to try to do that. Ready?
Wow. Instead, let's all just sit in silence.
Jede Verbindung zum US-Geheimdienst.
Wow.
Can you guys see?
Los ex trabajadores de la empresa indican sin ningún género
Oh, what's going on?
Oh, now it's stuck.
Dudas, según han declarado al juez, que se trataba de la inteligencia de Estados Unidos.
Diese Behauptung kommentiert das Büro des Direktors der amerikanischen Geheimdienste auf Anfrage nur mit einem Satz. Wir haben keine Infos für Sie. Wir erzählen dem ehemaligen CIA-Chef von den Aufnahmen in der Botschaft.
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, that kind of thing goes on all the time. In the intelligence business, the name of the game is to get information any way you can. And I'm sure that's what was involved here.
Julian Assange und seine Anwälte haben Klage eingereicht. Am Nationalen Gerichtshof in Spanien. Gegen David Morales wird ermittelt. Wegen illegaler Abhörung und wegen der Verletzung der Anwalts-Mandanten-Beziehung. Das Anwaltsteam will die Aufmerksamkeit für den Prozess. Denn für sie zeigt es, dass die USA mit ihrem Mandanten unrechtmäßig umgehen.
The connection with the U.S. intelligence services, and that is really stupid. Also, these emails are confidential, belong to my company, and it's our conversation, private conversation that I have.
Who was your contract with?
Well, we did the contract of the intelligence institution, Ecuadorian institution, okay, for the Secretaría, Intelligence Secretaría, Ecuadorian Intelligence Agency.
Okay.
Ehemalige ecuadorianische Regierungsmitarbeiter.
All right, so we saw Leon Panetta laughing.
Yeah,
okay.
wow.
What did he laugh at? Sorry. What did he laugh at?
Just that we bug people all the time.
He's such a putz.
Just that we attacked Julian while he was in the embassy and his entire family and all the journalists that visited.
Jesus.
What a hoot. Yeah. So Kevin, welcome. You are a journalist. You are a filmmaker. You are the host of the Unauthorized Disclosure podcast with friend of the show, Rania Kalik. And you also are, you're part of Shatterproof.
I'm the managing editor of
Shatterproof, yeah. And tell us what you've been doing vis-a-vis the Assange case.
Yeah, so I mean, I made a personal choice not to try to travel in the middle of a global pandemic. It just wasn't something that I wanted to do, and the court made it possible to access the proceedings remotely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of a backstory to it. So I have a lawyer in the UK that helped me make an urgent application to the court before we had any notice whatsoever from this lower court that there were going to be some kind of press access for these proceedings. I mean, we had no idea what they were going to do ahead of time. And so I proactively was making sure they would offer remote video access so that journalists around the world didn't have to travel. I mean, the fact is that if you go to the U.S. State Department website, at least before these proceedings started, it told you to reconsider traveling to the UK. Like, it very literally said, if you're planning to travel, don't travel to the United Kingdom because of the pandemic. So I don't know how I could go to these proceedings and cover them safely. I just don't. So I took that seriously, and I'm glad that basically there's at least a dozen or so international journalists that are using this video link to cover American. There's an Italian journalist named Stefania Marizzi who does very good work, and there's other people who have been able to gain access through this platform.
Okay, and why the limit? Is there a bandwidth issue or?
So I think there is a limit. I believe that the way that they do this is to spend the least amount of money on opening up virtual access. But also what you need to understand is that this court, the Judge Vanessa Beretzer,
right.
I noticed this when we had what has been deemed a COVID scare that abruptly halted the proceedings last week. When she had before her the possible future that we would be doing this all virtually, she was very uneasy about it because she wants to be able to exercise the most control over these proceedings at all. She's paranoid that one of us will take a screenshot of a video and share it.
I would do that. I would screen share it the whole time. Just kidding.
Yeah, she's just, doesn't want us to take a picture of James Lewis, this really, I mean, I think he's a total arsehole, but like he's like really this cartoonish, buffoonish kind of a guy that has taken center stage. And I think she's worried that we would be like sharing stuff throughout the whole proceedings, mocking him. This is certainly what I would do if I could share pictures. I wouldn't just be doing it for educational purposes. There's a lot going on in these proceedings in the last week that have been really hard to tolerate, especially from the prosecution.
Yeah. So can you share with us some of that?
Yeah.
Like what the worst stuff is, the stuff that you really want to make sure people know about?
Well, I mean, I've been really bothered and irritated by this idea that the indictment represents some kind of evidence, and that if the defense team is calling witnesses who don't believe that the indictment is truth, that then they are automatically biased witnesses. And so the judge should not take them seriously. I mean, if we want to talk about bias, I mean, clearly the prosecutor is pretty biased in the sense that he's not letting a lot of the defense. I mean, so we've had 4 defense witnesses so far in these proceedings. We only really had 3 days of testimony, but these 4 witnesses, for each of them, it's been the position of the prosecutor that they're not experts and or that they're biased people. And apparently there's some rule in the UK court system that when the defense calls these witnesses, they're supposed to not be totally in the tank for the legal team. And if the judge can tell that they are, they might find that their testimony is worth less, that it's considered less credible. And so, they've had this really odd, bizarre way of trying to make it seem like they aren't legitimate. And that includes, the other thing that's really bothered me is, you probably don't know what this is, but there's something called the Federal Rules of Prosecution. And it's just basically guidelines for how prosecutors should behave so that they don't violate certain ethical codes. And he read that to Trevor Timm, who is the executive director of Freedom of the Press Foundation. His testimony was some of the best of the past week in taking on the prosecutor and, what I don't hesitate to call his bullshit talking points. But, they were reading these federal rules of prosecution as if this was evidence that you couldn't possibly have a political case here. And, to me, it's like, that's just a document that everyone's expected to follow. It doesn't really say what's happening inside of the Justice Department.
Right.
I mean, it's really lunatic that, you could read. I mean, it'd basically be like reading the rules of a sports game and then saying that like that dictates what's going to happen in any given match between those two teams. It's like, no, not necessarily. So that really has bothered me because we've seen for multiple witnesses, he takes the same approach. And obviously I understand that he's going to be hostile to these witnesses. They are trying to undermine the prosecution's case. I mean, just so everyone's clear here as what we're talking about, the extradition proceedings work in such a way that there's not really much that the prosecution has to do. They already are probably going to win extradition. And then the trial that we're having is, okay, the defense, put on your best reasons why the judge should not approve the extradition. So what we're watching is the defense trying to make an attempt to stop the judge from allowing the extradition. That's just how the process is set up.
Right. So it's not guilty or innocent, right? It's an extradition case.
Right. It's not guilty or innocent.
Yeah.
It's just if the judge has a reasonable belief that a crime has been committed, she's going to authorize the extradition to the United States.
Okay.
Wow.
And it doesn't take, it's a very low bar. It doesn't take much
that's like a pretty wide edict.
You just have to show that, the crime has to be a crime in the United States. So that is one good thing that the Assange legal team has going for it, because, as alleged, both specifically and generally, they are not crimes in the United States. So I'm talking about like just receiving classified information, if you are a journalist, is not a crime, although the U.S. government would clearly like it to be in this case. And also publishing the names of informants or human intelligence sources, as the government seems to really, really be focused upon saying is what Julian Assange did. That's not a crime either. In fact, Joe Lieberman tried to make it a law after the WikiLeaks publications back in 2010 and 2011, and the U.S. Congress just didn't pass it. So we almost had a law that made it a crime for anyone. That would have been you, me, Jack, anyone watching the show. If they had Barbara Smith, anybody who, you've had as a guest on your show, Matt Taibbi, your co-host on Useful Idiots, all of us, we could have been criminals if we were publishing human intelligence sources' names, but that's not a law. That's just not on the books. So they don't even have that. So that's one thing the legal team has going for it, is there are several examples here in this indictment of them claiming crimes occurred that aren't crimes in the United States.
Okay. So what are they accusing him of that are criminal things in the United States?
Well, I mean, the gray area one is whether it's a crime to help Chelsea Manning perhaps go around the secret U.S. military computer networks secretly, but they're not really even alleging that he tried to help her hack into any computers. She already had access to all of the material, and so she didn't need Julian Assange to help her get to it. And her concern was that maybe she would be found out. So there's this whole thing around like a password hash, and he was maybe going to help her cloak herself so that she could go around. But it's not really clear that that she ever used anything. So that's why it comes down as a conspiracy charge. Like, they have no proof that I can tell that he actually helped her move around secretly. In fact, I covered the entire court-martial. I don't remember any example of Julian Assange successfully helping to cloak Chelsea Manning. So, but that's I think that's in a gray area. I mean, is helping your source remain anonymous on a secret computer network, is that hacking? I don't know.
Right.
I think we're getting into territory that hasn't been decided in any court of law before.
Right. Although obviously, I mean, Glenn Greenwald very passionately says that for him, that's what part of journalism is protecting your sources. So even if Assange had done that, and it's not clear that that was used by Manning, right? For Greenwald, that would not be. I mean, this is not a question of, I guess, law, although he is a lawyer, but I guess he's talking about whether or not it should be covered by what journalists do. Yeah.
And so then there's these other allegations that, so some of them get specific and they get into publication. And then we've got some more general allegations that have been added in. In the past months, they've actually entered a fresh extradition request because I think they're sensitive to some of the way this is all playing out, and they believe it's possible they could fail in making these charges that are all about the Chelsea Manning disclosures in those publications. Because to me, like, if you support WikiLeaks, you support what those publications were. I mean, most people who like WikiLeaks are fans of what Chelsea Manning did and are fans of publishing the Iraq war logs, the Afghanistan war logs, the U.S. state cables, and the collateral murder video and the Guantanamo files. And also, those are the most high-profile award-winning leaks. But they realized that might not be a crime in the United States, that it might be really hard to prosecute. So they're moving in this direction of making Julian Assange seem more like a hacker. They're really leaning into it. We've added in language about how he helped Edward Snowden escape from Hong Kong to get to a third country. And of course, he ended up trapped in the Moscow airport. And they're going after him for helping to do it, which really was source protection. It's what a good journalist would do. And even though it wasn't WikiLeaks' source, it was an act that was done selflessly to try to help someone who had exposed mass NSA surveillance. And so they're moving in that direction. They're trying to tie him to all manner of random hacking / alleged cyber attacks, link him to this LulzSec group, which was kind of a spinoff of Anonymous back in 2011 or so, and had some link to this Jeremy Hammond case. And Jeremy Hammond was involved in hacking into the Stratfor private intelligence firm. But then what the government doesn't tell you is that within all of these new allegations that they're pushing, they have two very unreliable informants that are at the center of these. And one whose name is Ziggy from Iceland, who actually was convicted of pedophilia and was involved in embezzling $50,000 from the WikiLeaks store and selling merchandise without permission, and was prosecuted by the Icelandic government, but then got paid like $5,000 by the US government. And then there's Sabu, or Hector Monsegur, who was involved in basically running what I see as mostly a FBI kind of entrapment scheme, a very amateurish FBI entrapment scheme to try to bait Julian Assange into either buying classified information or buying hacked information, or somehow they were going to find a way to get Julian Assange while basically allowing Stratfor to be sacrificed. I mean, essentially, Stratfor doesn't exist anymore because the FBI was trying to nail Julian Assange.
Okay, got it. And what else have you seen? Have you seen Assange like in the courtroom? I know you're not there, but have you seen him on video?
No, I've seen him. So there was the one day where this whole narrative of the unruly defendant took hold in the mass media, where he had this outburst, as they were deeming it, and he said, "This is nonsense." I can tell you what was going on right then. There was a human rights attorney that was testifying. His name is Clive Stafford Smith, and the prosecutor—
I already don't like him. Sounds like a waspy guy. Wait, is he good or bad? Is he good or bad?
No, you should like him. I know the name.
I already like him. I like him because I like subversive, waspy named people. Yeah, I love him.
No,
yeah.
I mean it's great because he's got 3 names, and so
yet is a good guy,
and he can sneak in there and stand up for human rights. So you want those kind of people.
Yeah, you do. You totally do.
Covertly stand up. So in fact, he's represented Guantanamo Bay prisoners who are challenging their treatment. And he also was responsible for being involved in a case in Pakistan that used WikiLeaks cables to try and end CIA drone strikes. The high court there actually ruled that drone strikes were a war crime in Pakistan as a result of some of the work he was involved in.
Wow.
And they were using WikiLeaks cables for part of that case that came out around.
So ignore everything I said. I love him. Yeah.
So he's sitting on the stand and he's trying to deal with this bullying prosecutor, who I already told you is kind of a cartoonish buffoon, at least in the way he behaves in this courtroom, and really in over his head. I mean, I think this is a weak case to begin with, so I don't really know what he thinks he's doing. He's got a pretty good career. I don't know why he would get involved with this. It must be that it's guaranteed to work, and Julian's going to be extradited, so it doesn't matter how embarrassing it looks to advance the case. But he sounds embarrassing while he's in this courtroom, and he kept asking the same question over and over again to Clive, and eventually Julian just bursted out because the judge wasn't doing anything to stand up for the witness. I mean, oftentimes if you follow court proceedings, you might get exchange like asked and answered, please move on. We all watch their legal dramas. And Vanessa Barretzer just let this keep going and going and going. And Julian just lost it. And he said something about, something about watching this by proxy. And anyways, without any empathy whatsoever, this was reported. And of course, they brought Julian back in after the outburst, as it was reported. And Vanessa told him that if you do this again, you're going to be removed and you may not be here for the rest of the trial proceedings. And, nobody is stopping to consider the way in which the due process rights of Julian Assange have been systematically violated throughout this. Well, and I know from covering, he sits in this glass box at the back of this courtroom, first of all, which was definitely foreign to me as an American, because we don't put our defendants in glass boxes at the back of courtrooms. Even if you're accused of terrorism offenses, you still get to sit with your attorney and consult with your attorney. So it's very wild to me.
That's like what they did to Morsi.
Yeah. Max Blumenthal has a really good report on this, where he has, these illicit, or I guess, they're illicit photos. I mean, they were taken despite the court, not wanting people to take photos, but he's got the photo of Julian Assange in the glass box, and there's these others, and there's others. I think Adolf Eichmann and I don't know, Pinochet might be in there. Anyways, you know, like people who are accused of dictators like Saddam Hussein and Morsi.
Crimes
these are
against
people,
humanity.
Yeah, these are people who have been in the glass boxes, and Julian Assange is sitting in this back room. And he made an application. He asked the judge, can I sit with my attorney? I can't follow these proceedings. I can't hear. This was back in February, and the U.S. prosecution didn't object. And she said, no, I'm not going to let it. So he is consigned to this glass box. We heard on the first.
Is that typical in Britain?
The glass box?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been there. It's become more of a fixture in the era where we're, you know, fighting global terrorism. But
yeah, it
hasn't always been there. And yeah, there has been some. With, you know, like we have the ACLU here, so that those types of civil liberties groups have challenged it to some degree, but they've not made a lot of headway. So yeah, we heard on the first day that his attorney Edward Fitzgerald mentioned that he had not met with Julian Assange for 6 months before this proceeding. So the first time he was meeting him in person was before court, and so actually the defense is in this position where they can meet with Julian Assange in the morning before proceedings for a half hour. But if they do, they're going to lose a half hour of time that they would have with calling witnesses. And so it's not good. And of course, there's these stories of him meeting his family because he's got a partner now named Stella Morris, and he's got 2 children. And he only saw them for like the first time a few weeks ago because this pandemic has been so oppressive for anyone who's been held in any prison around the world. And he's in these conditions where he's denied bail. And the reason why they're keeping him in this prison and they won't let him out of Belmarsh Security Prison, which is where they put like high profile terrorists, by the way, is the reason he's still there is because he jumped bail. And you might say, well, what did he jump bail for? Well, he jumped bail because he was claiming political asylum in the Ecuador embassy. So to me, that's not a crime, but they're basically making a mockery of political asylum by criminalizing the fact that he wouldn't let the UK arrest him. And so this is where we're at. This is, you know, he's had his due process rights undermined in many respects.
And what does he look? What's his state like physically?
Well, so I think mentally he is deteriorating, and physically he's had ailments. We've heard from several doctors that say it's not good. He's had problems with he's had problems with his arm, and I mean, all I can say is that when he sits in the back room, sometimes he looks withdrawn. Sometimes he'll pay attention. I mean, this is a smaller courtroom than the one where we were in February. So I think the acoustics are better. So he is able to follow. But, oftentimes you can tell that this has gotten to him. And certainly Stella will say that she's afraid that, this process is going to go on for 3 to 4 more years. And it's a widespread belief that he may not survive given the way that his health is deteriorating.
It's really awful. And where are all these people who are like, I hate Trump. Trump is the worst. I love Obama. Obama's the best. Why aren't they upset that Trump and that thug Pompeo, they get so upset when Pompeo delivers a fucking thing from Jerusalem during the RNC.
That's a Hatch Act violation.
Right. That's serious. Like, why aren't they upset that they're doing something that Obama decided not to do?
Yeah, I think that's the right question because, I think people on the left have to check their opposition to Obama and recognize that it's a fact that there was no indictment against Julian Assange under Barack Obama. And that matters because Donald Trump's the one that actually indicted Julian Assange.
Right.
And that's something that we need to wrestle with. And the reason why I say we should wrestle with it is because it flat out fucking irritates the prosecutor that Barack Obama did not indict Julian Assange. This has been something that they have been trying to deny for the last week. Every witness is told that, well, the grand jury investigation continued. Oh, well, that report doesn't say that. There were New York Times stories and there were Washington Post stories that said that the Justice Department recognized there was a First Amendment problem and that they could not prosecute Julian Assange without also going after editors at the New York Times. And so they backed away. And Matthew Miller, who was a spokesperson for the Justice Department, an Obama person, has made it clear that they just didn't think this was something they would be able to succeed in going after him over. They left the grand jury open. Yes, that's a problem, but there wasn't an intent to continue with prosecuting for the Chelsea Manning disclosures. In fact, I think we can suggest that they were going to move on entirely from them because one of Obama's last acts was to commute the sentence of Chelsea Manning.
Right.
So then, they've been trying to make it seem like Donald Trump isn't making a political decision. And this is important for saving Julian Assange. Because if it's a political case against Julian Assange, if they're not applying the law fairly and equally and justly like they should to anyone who would commit an offense, then this is a political case and it may fall under an exemption that protects Julian Assange from being extradited to the United States. And so it's quite clear that the Justice Department had one policy under Obama, and then when Trump came into office, you had, Jeff Beauregard Sessions, who had Los Leaks. He was one of the few senators who was in favor of having a kind of a Official Secrets Act in the United States, which we don't have, but it would have made it a crime to publish classified information, or would have helped criminalize the publication of state secrets. And then you have Mike Pompeo, as you mentioned, who has been very aggressive he was the CIA director and now at the State Department. He's definitely continuing the same actions that he started as a CIA director. And, there's John Bolton, who was the national security advisor. Of course, it talked about executing Chelsea Manning or, people these people in the administration were people in favor of like drone bombing Julian Assange. These are the people who are involved in bringing this indictment.
It's so depressing and it's so scary. And it's like, I feel so hopeless and helpless. And, they've done such a good job of like making this guy a weirdo, seem like a weirdo, as if that counts at all.
Matters.
As if that matters at all. Imagine if Venezuela or Russia or North Korea held a trial and had someone in a glass box at the back of the courtroom.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, well, so what the U.S. is claiming the right to do is to indict a journalist from anywhere around the world, and that's the kind of precedent that you can imagine the Chinese government, the Russian government, Saudi Arabian government, Israeli government, Turkish government, maybe the Brazilian government. Some of the more powerful countries in the world would probably like to be able to claim that they are protecting their classified information and that a journalist, say in Australia or in, a European country or in Canada, that they could extradite them for violating classified information. And that's what we're doing is, that whole concept that has existed since 9/11 of treating the world as the battlefield, where we'll go anywhere, we'll drone bomb anywhere, we'll send our troops anywhere, we'll occupy wherever we have to go, we'll support whatever proxy force we have to support. Now it's extending out to, we'll target a journalist who is publishing our classified information and try to bring them to the United States and put them on trial. And that clip, just so that I can make sure people know what we were showing when we started this interview, that clip showed Leon Panetta basically yucking it up about the fact that this undercover global private security company in Spain was hired, was working on behalf of U.S. intelligence to target the Ecuador embassy while Julian was inside. So yeah, I mean, it's really alarming. It's really alarming, and I think it's good that you are having me on to talk about all of this.
I mean, where's Rachel Maddow? Where are all the people who think that Trump is attacking free press? I mean, I know but it's just unbelievable. Like, why can't they just at least pretend or like, can't they just, even if they hate this guy because of Hillary Clinton, can't they just like,
there's actually an angle to this that should appeal to Rachel Maddow. I've spoken a little bit about it, which is that
Rachel, you're listening? Okay, good.
Yeah, listen up. So this involves a pardon offer by Trump. This is the kind of thing that Rachel Maddow likes to get into, right?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. So Trump, this is what the legal team says. Dana Rohrabacher, you know Dana Rohrabacher?
Yeah.
Dana,
California congressman?
Yeah, he was, and known to like a trip to Russia here and there.
Right, right, yeah.
And Chuck Johnson, you know Chuck Johnson, this right wing. I mean, he's kind of like a has-been now. Probably sounds like a name we haven't heard in a long time, but this right wing journalist who he went with Dana Rohrabacher to the embassy and met with Julian Assange, allegedly to extend an offer for a pardon. And if Julian Assange was willing to reveal who his source was for the DNC emails, then he was going to give Julian a pardon, is the story. And Julian said, well, I can't reveal my sources. I mean, that would compromise the entire integrity of WikiLeaks. We don't share how we get our documents. That's just, that's a no-go. But, he was actually at the same time negotiating other ways that he could testify and provide information. There was some talk, I don't know if it was exactly at this time frame, but there was some talk with the Senate Intelligence Committee or people on the Senate about maybe, okay, well, I can tell you who didn't give me information, and I'll help you to understand how I know that, these people and this group and that group didn't actually give me the information, so you could have a better understanding of where these publications came from. So he turned it down. And then, of course, you turn around and you find that you are the subject of this prosecution. That, in fact, they felt like they were not going to have to deal with this again. The thing about that German documentary that we showed clips from is in the narrative, Stella says that with what the Obama administration had done and with Trump coming in, with Trump being like, WikiLeaks, I love WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
They thought, well, we could have kids. We could start a family. Eventually, Julian's going to be able to move out of the embassy. They figured that this was all going to run its course and end, and it took a complete U-turn.
That's so awful. Yeah. Yeah. I don't understand.
It's like I think that it's just too it's like it's not clean with Assange, and people don't. I feel like people sort of generally know that they're not supposed to like him. So you're sort of Rachel Maddow's, like, it's not useful for them to make the same point that they would make about anyone else in the world who was the victim of Trump policy like this. But when it's Assange, it's just a little bit too messy or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of people who use the qualifier. This was how like Elizabeth Warren talked about it, and others. It's like they'd say, well, I don't like Julian Assange, but then they would continue and say why we couldn't have this prosecution because of the First Amendment and what it would mean for press freedom. I actually think that that's a mistake because it gives the government a lot of ground. It cedes a lot to them to allow, because I don't have anything tidy out there that I can send people to go read, but it's my gut that if I wasn't in the middle of this trial and if there wasn't a lot of other more important things, that you could sit down and you could probably document where all of our ideas about his personality come from.
Yeah.
And it would be either from the US government or it would be from the editors of these media organizations that had fallouts with these people. And it basically amounts to gossip. So we've basically taken gossip and turned it into fact. I mean, I know that Bill Keller, when he was the executive editor of the New York Times wrote this column where he was describing Julian Assange as like a bag lady, and he didn't clean up after himself, and there were smelly socks all over. And that had absolutely nothing to do with any of the leaks or the disclosures.
Right.
And you know, for someone who claims to care about journalism and whose newspaper was involved in publishing these leaks, I mean, it's quite something to publish a column like this that entirely distracts from what your journalist, what you were working on it. It's like you just published these secret classified documents and you want people to talk about them. Your newspaper published the Pentagon Papers, and yet you're helping the government attack the source and kill the messenger.
Yeah. This is so stupid. Sorry. I don't like it. Wait, where is this? Hold on. Really stupid, but it made me laugh. Where is this? I don't like Assange because he's albino. Like he really would prefer his day in the sun, maybe with an umbrella.
Well, yeah. Okay. Everyone's got their reasons.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing about that is he spent 7 years in an embassy where he couldn't go out in the sun.
Right.
So, all right.
Yeah.
I agree with this from Sparky. Trump by himself is likely indifferent about Assange. The problem is Pompeo, Gina Haspel, and their Five Eyes colleague. Definitely, yeah. Can you imagine Trump being like, I like what he did. I liked it when I like what he released about Hillary Clinton.
Trump likes that this guy gets in the news. You know what I mean? Like I think people like overplay how like Trump loves Assange and all this stuff. I'm like, Trump doesn't give a shit about anything, first of all, but second of all, not the specifics of this case.
No, but can't you imagine being like, I thought it was great. I don't know why we're going after him.
I mean, if it was actually just up to him, you feel like he would probably leave it.
I love when he gets these weird moral glimmers. Like you can just, like when he was like, when he was talking about George Floyd, it was totally inappropriate. He was making some press release or signing. He was announcing job numbers or something. And he's like, and we can imagine that George is up there looking down on us.
Oh, yes, that's what it was.
But the reason I bring that up is, I'm sorry, I have some allergy, which is why I'm making these weird faces. I don't know where it came from. I've been sitting here all day. Oh, maybe it's from this book that I grabbed, which is Our Dogs Ourselves, by the way, which I thought was really funny. I wanted to bring up to Barbara Smith. So let me throw that away because it may be giving me allergy stuff. But you saw him in real time, like kind of realize that what they had done to George Floyd was terrible. And you could just see the wheel. He's like, it really was.
Well, your audience
was messed up. Yeah.
Your audience may want us to mention the Glenn Greenwald interview that just took place on Friday, where he went on for 4 minutes on Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
To me, that seems like a pretty savvy thing that Glenn was doing, because he knows that Donald Trump just watches 5 hours of Fox News every evening before he goes to bed. And, I think if he hasn't thought about Julian Assange's case in a long time, maybe he did on Friday night. And that was an effort to put Snowden and Assange back on his mind and remind him that he could pardon both of those people.
Right.
And I think it's an interesting thing, because like when I think of what, we talk about what's hopeless about this, when I think about what can change and how Julian Assange may not be extradited, one of those wild cards is, well, if Fox News started covering it and actually cared about this case, maybe Donald Trump would change his mind, because that's happened before.
Yeah. Someone pointed out, Sid Nanda pointed out, it's true, Trump actually called for Assange's death when WikiLeaks first came out. But wait, when did WikiLeaks first come out?
So that would have been 2010, 2011.
Of course. Yeah, so of course he would call
tweeting anything. You know what I mean?
Like listen, I didn't like it when it happened. And I don't like what it did. It put us very much in danger. But he showed us what Hillary was up to, and I love him for that.
He exposed crooked Hillary.
He exposed crooked Hillary. Look, I wanted to kill him at first. I can't do a good impersonation of him at all, but I imagine him saying things. I wanted to kill him at first, but then, the guy turned into a hero.
Well, I think you got to love the Trump supporter who tells you very confidently that you should not be tying Snowden to WikiLeaks when because they think Snowden is a traitor, but they like Julian Assange because they were able to see the dirty laundry inside the Democratic Party.
Right.
And in fact, that's not even reasonable anymore, because the U.S. government has tied them together through the indictment, as I mentioned.
Right. Yeah, right. Trump doesn't know anything about WikiLeaks. But also, I joked, but I guess people don't really understand my sense of humor. But I said to Glenn, how dare you go on Fox when you could go on MSNBC or CNN? And people are like, no, we couldn't. They wouldn't let him. I'm like, yeah, I know. That's a good point. But that whole conversation is really sickening to me. It's like the travesty. It is disturbing that Glenn Greenwald had to go on Fox News to get to talk about that story. And that it's not actually an indictment of Tucker Carlson, though many things are indictments of Tucker Carlson, and he's a bigot. It's an indictment of liberal to mainstream media, that the only place you can talk about this is on Carlson's show.
And also just that all news is basically just like all news can only be done to get one over on the other guy. You know what I mean? It's like Tucker Carlson is a bigot and he's horrible and there's so much that's awful about him. But yeah, it's like, why is it that we don't have any liberal news sources that just actually want to report the news, even if it's like not necessarily like, helpful to their side or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
Just bizarre.
Well, so the problem with CNN and MSNBC is because their interest in the Julian Assange case is that they want Julian to be brought to the U.S. to be interrogated about what he knows about Russiagate.
Russiagate, right.
Yeah,
but they didn't even attempt to ask him about it. Couldn't they try to?
Yeah.
Matt Taibbi says they didn't even try to.
Oh, you mean did the government interview him?
Yeah.
No, but like these networks have it in their head that if we could just extradite Julian Assange to the U.S.,
well, then you get him in a room with Adam Schiff.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Old Turkey Schiff. I
think he looks like the Jigsaw puppet from Saw. I think he looks like the puppet from the Saw movies.
Yeah, I think I blocked that out of my head. I only saw one of them. One Tall Girl 78 says, how does the fact that he is a non-U.S. citizen but credentialed press person factor into his potential conviction and sentencing? Also, is there anything more that Australia can do to protect him? But Australia is not protecting him, right?
Yeah, there's so much more Australia can do.
But they don't like him.
The government hasn't stepped in to try and defend him. I mean, they should, because as I said earlier, this is a dangerous precedent where the U.S. is claiming that they can go after. So, maybe Assange is the first one, but after that, it could be someone who's more likable Australian journalist who gets targeted.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what Ryan Grimm and lots of people have pointed out, which is that that's what they always do. They make the case, they set the precedent with someone who's really unappealing / they make that person look unappealing. And some people are easier to do that with than others. And that doesn't mean that he's bad for that reason, but he definitely was like a more easily smearable person than others. Although I'm sure if it had been, I don't like Mother Teresa, so I don't want to use her, but insert good person, that it would have been, they would have done it anyway.
But in making him a pariah, I mean, it's a whole set of different tactics that get deployed against someone. And as you try to defend yourself and fight back, then that in effect makes you more unlikable. Like the fact that you won't just let the government go after you. I mean, a lot of things that we would list off, and I'd include like having your own show on Russia Today to interview people, because that's one of the linchpins of trying to argue that he is a part of, or one of the ways that they try to argue that he's connected to the Russian government, just because he did a show on RT, which, a lot of journalists have done shows.
I didn't even remember that.
There doesn't mean their work. I mean, he interviewed Rafael Correa before. So, yeah, I mean, you do that because you're not given access to any other media. And then that effectively makes it easier for the U.S. government to claim your...
Of course, yeah.
But the thing we should understand is he's not an American. I mean, obviously, we all understand that, but I feel like this is something that I can repeat many, many times in any given interview, simply because it makes this more ridiculous, the fact that he is not an American. He's not an American. He should not have to follow U.S. laws. It should not matter whether he supported Hillary Clinton or not, or whether he supported Donald Trump or not, because he doesn't vote in the United States. And he can do whatever he wants. If he wants to be a shit kicker, he can be a shit kicker. If he wants to agitate from the UK, he can agitate from the UK. He's not from here. He has there's no consequence that needs to be handed down to him for not playing politics the way that we would play politics in the United States.
Oh, it's really depressing. Well, and is there anything we can do? What can we do? There has to be some good civil,
Is there a call to action?
Yeah.
Well, so like all of these press freedom groups have done a pretty good job of raising the alarm, although they had their access revoked. Many of them had access to the court. You might have heard this, Katie, when you talked to Juan Passarelli. They had their access removed. These were human rights organizations. There are some politicians in like Germany and some of the other European countries that do care. It's interesting because here in the U.S., nobody in Congress cares about this case enough to follow it. Not even the most liberal senators or
why is that?
Progressive senators care what our government is doing. So, what I would say is amplify these voices that are doing independent media on this case, because it's hugely crucial. That's what I'd say first off, because people need to know that this is ongoing, because it is happening in a window that doesn't fall tidily in the U.S. news cycle.
Right.
So, when I get done with this, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to get up before 4 a.m. and then I log into the court proceedings and I'm going to follow it for 6 hours. And by the time people are waking up in the morning or going off to their jobs, we'll mostly be done with the day's proceedings. And so, I think it fits in for a British news cycle, but it doesn't quite fit into the U.S. news cycle.
Maybe that's the reason. What if it's all about the time zone?
All about the cycle.
Would it be like a huge story here? But for that,
breaking news, time zones.
Breaking news. Everyone would care. Rachel Maddow would be so upset about. Maybe we should send. Let's make sure. If not for GMT,
let's go reset the clocks in Rachel Maddow's apartment.
Yeah, put them on British time. Yeah. No, but then she'll think Putin did it.
Oh yeah, shit.
It's an endless war inside her head over whether it's China or Putin.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Which is what their plan is.
Just depends on what side of the bed she gets up on.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Well, we got to put a British thing in there for reals. Yeah. No, it's really depressing, and no one's saying anything about it. And it's just like, yeah, I guess he really is they're going to kill him, huh?
Like, I'll say that I've been generally pleased with what a lot of independent and alternative media journalists have been able to do. I've been out there trying to make sure coverage breaks out. There's Consortium News that has done some excellent coverage. There's some other journalists that I know that have been doing, generally good work. And I think that while there's a void in the mass media, we shouldn't necessarily
give up.
I am very torn here, because on one hand, they should be covering, they should care. Their editorial boards have said that Julian Assange should not be indicted and prosecuted under the Espionage Act, and that this is bad for journalism. But they're not, they're only doing one report at the beginning of this extradition trial, and then they'll do one report at the end. But I have very, very mixed feelings about whether I want them to get in the game and cover this, because they just tend to not really understand it. And I think it's also possible that people could get confused and there could be misinformation. The thing that was crazy is there's one of Rupert Murdoch's outlets in the UK is Sky News.
Yeah.
And they published this headline that said 18 new allegations against Julian Assange. And I said, what are you talking about? 18 new criminal allegations against Julian. Where'd you get that? Well, they completely misunderstood what happened on the first day of court, and they reported it totally wrong. And so, yeah, do I want them reporting? No, not if it means more people are confused about what's going on.
Yeah, but you got to get your name out there somehow. Sparky writes, pardoning Assange. Where is that? Oh, wait, I think it may be somewhat. I'm not sure if this is like, I feel like anytime this word is used, you're maybe an anti-Semite, unless you're using in quotes. Pardoning Assange, Snowden, and Manning all at once could be Trump's trump card. The military-industrial complex and globalists would flip out. I don't want. What do we have to say about that term?
I don't know. They gave you $5. Do you want to go?
I know. It's blood money, but I'll take it.
I think globalist is an allowed term, but that's also used. Well, I think it's a term that's like, within the realm of discourse, but that's also used sometimes as a dog whistle. It's not one of these Jews? Like, yes, I think it is sometimes used as a dog whistle there.
I know what they're saying. So like Trump, Trump's really bizarre in the sense that he rhetorically seems to value making these kinds of statements. I mean, like today, I think, or in the last 24 hours, he said something about the only reason we're in the Middle East is because of Israel, that we're protecting Israel.
I need to have a hashtag called Trump or Chomsky. I've said this on Useful Idiots.
Yeah.
So let's write that one down. It's a Trump or Chomsky hashtag. And no, I'm not. And it's because Trump says it as if it's not a bad thing. And Chomsky says it as if it is a bad thing, which it is.
Yeah.
So we got to write that one down. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well,
that's insane.
And so he's willing to say these things while at the same time empowering Pompeo, John Bolton. Right. And it's like, well, those people aren't going to do those. He doesn't really care.
Right. Yeah. And also he likes Israel. He doesn't mind like playing favorites with Israel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say that the way I read that statement is that like it's an inconvenience to have to protect Israel.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God, like, if we didn't have to.
The only reason we're doing this.
Yeah.
That Jewish state again that we have to.
So annoying.
I told Jared, and look, he married my daughter. What can I do?
Well, if we could just wipe off all the Muslim countries around it, then
it would be very rude, though. Very rude. Very rude. Well, yeah. Okay. Anything else that people want to say? I want to give Kevin the chance to sleep.
Yeah. Well, so I'll just let people know that I'm doing. Thanks for having me on to talk about all of this. It's
of course.
Really important. I appreciate it. And
everyone should follow Kevin. Actually, what's your Twitter's just Kevin Gosztola?
Yeah, it's at K Gosztola.
Oh, K Gosztola. Gostola. Yeah.
Gosztola. Yep.
Wait, Gos. Say it again.
Z as in zebra.
Right.
TOLA.
Okay.
And that's that Hungarian name working overtime there. So
there you have it spelled.
So if you go there, I've been doing threads of the proceedings every single day, and that you can catch up. And by the time you wake up, if you're in the East, Central, or Mountain or Pacific time, I'll mostly be done, and you'll have a full rundown of what happened that day, and you'll be able to catch up on it. So. And then I do court reports at the end that are videos. So if you don't like reading or you just, don't like being on Twitter, you can find those on YouTube.
Oh, great. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, by the way, thank you, Sparky, for clarifying. Globalists are like Tony Blair, Bill Browder, neither of whom are Hewish. Get with it.
Well, I was saying
think we can use
sometimes
term.
be used as that.
Of course, that's what I meant.
I didn't think that's what Sparky was trying to say.
Sparky, I love that. Isn't that what he's named in European Vacation?
Yeah,
Sparky,
I think so.
Chevy Chase's character. Yeah. No, but I just think you could use another word. What's another word for them?
Are they
neocons or neolibs or what? Neo-globalists?
Well, I don't know. I think Julian Assange has this view, which is that there's this like transnational kind of, I guess, conglomerate. I mean, this is part of why he's being targeted is because he lumps in all these corporations, these trade unions, and these non-governmental organizations that work with the U.S. and has this like libertarian philosophy about how they all work with each other. And I bet that's probably what Sparky is trying to say.
Oh, yeah, perhaps. Right. Yeah. Wow. All
right. Well, it's been
Thank
good
you
talking
so
to you
much, Kevin.
Yeah.
Keep up the great work. And we'll have you back on soon. And
Right.
Hopefully. Bye. We'll stay on for a little bit. Yeah. Bye, Kevin.
Good time.
Yeah. Max, I'm going to have Max on again, but I really highly recommend the video we already did with him where he talks about how the CIA spied on Assange. And that guy, Morales, the Spanish dude, like the Spaniard, his company tried to take out the diapers of Assange's baby to test it to see if it was his baby. But you can't actually get DNA samples from feces. But that was why someone from that company do you
think they found out before or after they had like the feces? Before or after they were had a whole handful of feces, and they were like, you can't even use this.
And it's like, oops, yeah. Sparky,
so what do I do with all this shit then?
Yeah. So that's why someone said to Stella Morris, like, don't bring your babies anymore because they're trying to get their shit, literally.
Wow.
Wait, someone else had a nice comment that I'm on to read. Let's see, where is it? Oh. Love your lives and your perspective, Katie. Thanks, Jasmine.
Wow. That's nice
Yeah,
of
that's very
Jasmine to
nice.
say.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, I don't know if he went through feces or not, but
Yeah, we don't know if they actually like dug through the feces or anything.
But I think
before
they did
finding
grab
out.
the diapers.
Well, this was another great episode.
Yeah,
This
really
was
good,
another
yeah.
couple of great guests, and yeah, this is it's always a pleasure to join you for these.
Yeah, thanks
thanks
for
for
coming
having
on.
me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I'll let you guys all know. Oh, you know who we're having on next weekend?
Who's that?
Next Sunday? Gerald Horn, the historian.
Oh, awesome! That's great.
I'll send you a
Very
copy of the
cool.
book, yeah.
Please do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's great.
No,
yeah.
I'm taking a week off from my morning show, so I'll even have
so you
some
have all
time
the
to
time in the world,
to read and stuff. I'm gonna be sleeping in a little bit this
Nice.
week.
Yeah,
That'll be
what's your
nice.
sleep schedule like usually?
Normally, I sleep from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. I wake up at 5 to do the show. Because I'm a
Okay,
lunatic.
9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11, 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. Okay, 8 hours. Good.
It's
yeah,
8. It's
thanks,
8.
Yeah.
I'm very specific about
That's
needing
good.
my 8, and
Yeah.
I'm a single digit sleeper. I like to go to sleep when it's still the single digit hours.
I see. What about 9? How's 9?
A 9 counts. That's a single
that's
digit.
not too much.
We're not doing military time or
Right,
anything
yeah.
like that. So yeah, I like to try to get to sleep within the 9 o'clock hour and then wake up 5 to 5:30 or so.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'm on East Coast time is what I am.
Right. Yeah.
I keep trying to convince Kate, that maybe we should move to the East Coast sometime, but we just have so much family here and everything.
Yeah,
It'd be nice to wake up 3 hours later.
Yeah. Wait, I keep wanting to smash that like button.
Yeah.
Like, where is it?
Smash
moved.
that like button and subscribe. It's free.
Yeah, smash that. Yeah, you guys, you can help right now. Look, I'm going to tell you to go to patreon.com/the Katie Halper Show. And if you want to support it for $1 a month, that's $12. But the other thing is you gotta
like the show.
Like the show. It's effortless. Yeah.
Effortless. It's no big deal at all.
It's no big deal. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to make sure people know about, Jack?
I think that's it for me this week. Thanks again for having me. And I'll we'll see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week. I will see you guys Wednesday at 9 p.m. And then I will see you guys also Sunday at 7 p.m. Okay? Thank you.
See you later, everybody.
Bye. Do you think we can monetize Assange poo spy footage? Maybe.
I will